welcome to the latest World Cup date, June 27th. The quarterfinals are underway in France, and England 3, Norway 0 to book the first spot in the semifinals. Jason Longshore, Jessica Sharman with you today. And Jess, how you feeling?
I'm feeling fantastic. I was really nervous before the game. We all spoke. It was some heart in mouth time. Norway, a very good side that has shown a lot of quality growing into the tournament, but we handled the game as professionals and we got off to a fantastic start and didn't really take the foot off the gas until towards the end. So a complete performance. Obviously, a few things that we'd like to have changed, and we'll probably get into those, but you know, you have to smile when you win 3-0 in a quarterfinal to book your way into the semifinals. And you know, it wasn't a draining game for the ladies. It was a comfortable game, which is really nice when you know that there's going to be a war tomorrow on the field, and those two teams are going to exert probably more energy than the Lionesses did today.
Yeah, you're looking for these types of matches where you can take charge early and put the game away and just not have to sweat it too much. Coming in, everybody was pumped about Norway in this tournament and how they've grown, and there was a lot of the pundits worried about England. And I don't know, I didn't see it. We talked about that Cameroon match and just how weird it was, and there was maybe some overreaction to England not dominating that in a more dominant way. It was a 3-0 win. It was really weird, and
yeah.
I wasn't completely buying into the Norway hype because they've been good, but they lack that special player. England has a special player in Lucy Bronze, who assisted on the opening goal, had a world-class finish on the third goal of the night, and Phil Neville said it again. He said it before the tournament. Lucy Bronze is the best player in the world. It's hard to argue with him.
Yeah, incredible performance, and she's just an inspiration. And what's so good for England is to have two leaders out the back in Steph Houghton and Lucy Bronze. You've got two incredible leaders that are really inspiring this team into big things. And when you know that you can rely on Lucy Bronze for a moment of magic in terms of her press going forward and her striking of the ball, and when you know you can rely on Steph Houghton for a goal line clearance, you have to feel that inspires confidence in the players. It inspires confidence in me watching it. I never doubt in my mind, even when a player's going one-on-one, when you see Houghton making that recovery run, I never doubt that she's going to get back. When you see Lucy Bronze bombing forward, you never doubt that she's going to put a quality product into the box. And when she has a shot like that, you'd think Norway would have learned from 2015, but they clearly haven't, because Bronze just has an unstoppable strike.
Yeah, great set piece there, and Bronze takes full advantage. Let's talk about the right side for England, because Lucy Bronze is part of it, but Nikita Parris is the other, and they really seem to be in sync in this tournament.
Yeah, they do. And if you're a left back or a left winger, you know you're in trouble facing England. That really is the danger zone. A lot of our play goes through that right side, and what's good is it's not predictable. Both of them are very versatile in the way they play. Bronze doesn't always overlap. Sometimes she hangs back for the drop back ball, but she also has the power to bomb in. And what's also helpful is when Fran Kirby's in the middle, Ellen White's in the middle, those players make runs that help the right wing have options. And you know what? Ellen White's come on such a long way with her finishing, and she's a poacher now. And I think she got compared to Ruud van Nistelrooy the other day because she's just a finisher in front of the goal, and she's always there. And when you have the quality of Parris and the quality of Bronze to put in those deliveries, you're giving defenders nightmares. And I would imagine that France and the USA, as much as they're focused on their game tomorrow, both of them have probably watched this game, and they know where England's real dangers are. And Parris is a quality player. Look, she's getting a lot of stick right now. Obviously, she's 1 and 2 from the penalty spot, but as we've talked about with Atlanta United, a penalty doesn't mean anything about your quality as a player, and potentially maybe she shouldn't be taking penalties if one comes up in a bigger game, but you cannot deny her quality when she's running with the ball, and her moves are just impeccable, and any left back in the world is nervous when they face those two.
So Ellen White got the second goal tonight. You compared her to Ruud van Nistelrooy. I'll compare her to someone that she equaled in the England record book. She's the second England player to score in 4 straight World Cup matches, but she's the first to do it in one tournament. Gary Lineker did this in 86
Ooh,
and 90.
good old Gary.
That's kind of where she's at right now. She's
Yeah.
in the right spot at the right time, and she gets goals on a regular basis for this team.
Yeah, and they're not always beautiful goals. They're just good finishes. They're a forwards finish, and her placement is fantastic. But what she's adding to her game is that little bit of finesse. When you look back at the sort of volley she struck and hit the post, the quality of her positioning and the way she got her hips up to strike that ball, she's added a lot to her locker, and you cannot leave her unmarked in the box. That's for sure.
No, you can't. I mean, she's a must start at this point. I think England is pretty well settled where they're at. I know you had a question about the back line, and we did see some changes earlier in the tournament. Do you think this is the England team going forward, or might Phil Neville need to make some tweaks?
I think it's a team going forward, because making changes in a semi-final game probably isn't the best move, but Bright just needs to change the way she plays a little bit. Fantastic in the air, solid one-on-one defender, but a little bit too comfortable on the ball at times, trying to play those balls that we've seen so risky in the tournament, and just turning over the ball in possession too easily. She got very, very lucky when she played the ball back to the goalkeeper, Bardsley. And as I said to you offline, if the goalkeeper, she made contact. If the forward goes down, that's a penalty and potentially a red card. And Bright would have been at fault for that because of terribly under-hit back pass there.
Let's talk about the goalkeeper, Karen Bardsley. There was some rotation earlier in the tournament. You weren't a big fan of it, but so far England has conceded 1 goal in the tournament, and that was the 79th minute of the first match against Scotland. They haven't conceded since. It's not all Bardsley, but where do you rate her performance in this tournament?
That was a great performance, a solid performance. And I'm almost more impressed with that one because Norway didn't offer that much going forward at times, but she was switched on through the entire 90 minutes. And when she was called on to make big saves, she made those big saves. In a lot of ways for goalkeepers, when you're being tested every 5 minutes, it's a lot easier because you're warm, you're expecting, you're focused, you're in the game. Bardsley was called on in a lot of in not many moments, and those moments were huge moments, and she stayed focused and she made the big saves where she counts. She got down early, still a little bit risky with some of her passes too, but there was one where the forward closed her down and she almost hurt her knee. When you look back at it, it wasn't her fault. She's clearly signaling that she wants the ball on her left foot. Defender plays it to her right foot, and she's forced to take a touch across her body, which allows the forward to close her down. So for me, she's been quality, and actually a lot of her errors have come from disappointing back passes or not reading the game well. So I think it's the 4 in front of her that just need to up their game a little bit. The goal you talk about, we haven't conceded since the first game, but as far as I'm concerned, that was a defensive player, and I actually think it was Houghton that played the dangerous ball down the middle against Scotland that allowed them to capitalize and score. It's about, look, we're nitpicking potentially, but these are the things, as we said with USA, before their quarterfinal game, or before their last 16 game, rather. You have to clean up these little things because in the big games where it's 0-0, you can't make those mistakes because those are game-changing and tournament-ending mistakes.
Yeah, and you're getting to that point in the tournament where those mistakes get incredibly magnified, and England today didn't get punished for any mistakes. They get a comfortable win. They were able to take their foot off the gas a little bit in the second half. That's going to serve them well because I don't see anybody taking their foot off the gas tomorrow. USA France. This game is being talked about as one of the biggest Women's World Cup matches of all time. It's definitely on that level for the United States. I mean, it's maybe definitely the biggest game since the last final, but I mean, it could even have a bigger feel than that. It could be back to like 1999 final type of conversation. It is the game that everybody's been looking forward to all tournament. Stadium sold
before
out.
The tournament even.
Yeah.
That's the thing. This is the game that we were talking about when we saw the way the brackets would go and the group stages were set. This was the game we talked about, that these two teams would face each other in Paris and what a game it would be. There's a lot of people right now that are saying this is the World Cup final, you know? I find that kind of disrespectful, obviously, but it really is a huge game. These are the two favorites going into the tournament. England sort of an outside favourite from that group. And I'm excited to watch it. And I'll tell you something, England has a huge advantage here because this game isn't going to be a 3-0 game. This game is going to be a close tooth and nail battle. It's probably going to be very physical. Maybe there's some little niggly injuries that get picked up. And as an England fan, I'm not going to be complaining if that happens. I'm not going to be complaining if it goes 120 minutes and 20 rounds of penalties. You know, I'm ready for these women to be mentally and physically drained. And it is an advantage for England. The extra day rest plus the fact that you'd expect this game to be a lot closer. It's going to be a battle. And the US has to up their game. France has to up their game. I don't think either of them has really peaked against a tough opposition yet.
Nope.
And it's going to be a fun one, and I'm interested to see. And again, I don't want it to go all down to coaching, but Ellis has to up her game when it comes to her game management and her substitutions and all of that, because France are going to be prepared. And there's arguments that maybe it's going to be more USA fans than French fans. I don't think that's going to be the case. And I think the French support is going to be a massive help for the French.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty even split is what I'm expecting. You've got this. I think this was the game that sold out maybe next to the final faster than anything else. And resale tickets for some of the best seats in the house are going for over $2,000 US. There's a ton of American fans there. They're going to find their way into the building, but it is in Paris. So I think it's going to be just a really unique kind of atmosphere because it will be maybe not quite 50-50, but it's going to have that feel to it. So it's going to be really exciting. France is one of those teams, and I think England is in this conversation now, and I think Germany is in this conversation out of who's left, that isn't afraid of the United States. They're not going to come in and sit back and be defensive and look for one chance in the match. The U.S. is 0-1-2 against France in their last 3 times. The U.S. has only lost 1 time in their last 50 games, and that was to France in January, 3-1.
And
was
that
a pretty
game,
dominant France win.
Yes, and that's what I'm going to say. And I wonder how that plays on the mental states of the U.S. They're not used to losing. They lose so few that those sort of games are ones that they dwell on and they remember. And it was a shocking performance. I remember watching that game with Kelly and just saying, wow, the U.S. looks bang average and France looked brilliant. That France side, I don't think has shown themselves yet in this tournament, and they need to get hot, and they need to get hot fast. But if they do get hot, I think the U.S. is in trouble.
Yeah, I do too. There's definitely ways that France can hurt the United States. And the one that I keep zeroing in on, I'm curious to see what Joe Ellis does in the midfield. And I feel like I've talked about this every time with the U.S., but it's just becoming more of a glaring issue. There's massive acres of space between the midfield and the back line, whether it's Julie Ertz, who is very aggressive and can cover a lot of that ground and make the recovery run. She's going to step forward. France is a team that I think can punish the U.S. for that and get into that pocket of space. And it feels like a game where Henry really can dictate everything for France with space to operate in.
And Henry's feeling hot. She's just had her goal, an important goal. And I think she's growing into this tournament. She hasn't been a standout. She hasn't been spectacular. But she's a leader, and she knows she needs to have a big game here. Another area I think the U.S. needs to watch out for is France from set plays. Now, we've seen the U.S. struggles defending in the air. We've seen the goalkeeper and the defense don't necessarily have the best communication. The U.S. has a goalkeeper that loves to come for crosses, not always the right crosses. And the danger area for me is if France puts those teasing balls that are just between the penalty spot and the 6-yard box that kind of tease the goalkeeper, hey, come get me. I think that's where France is going to be strong. They've got the aerial presence. They're good in the air. You've got a player like Renard. The US is going to struggle when it comes to those aerial balls and defending set plays. And in a scrappy game like this, where you would expect there to be lots of fouls given up, the U.S. needs to be very careful with where they decide to put in those challenges.
Yeah, that's going to be critical here. I think both teams can score on set pieces, but the U.S. defending them worries me. The other thing that worries me, too, is Diani on the right side for France going up against Crystal Dunn. I think Crystal Dunn's an outstanding player, but she's not a left back.
She's not a – yes. And it still baffles me. A lot of coaches like to change the places they play players, and they like to think that they see potential in a player in that area, but she's just not a one-on-one defender, and France knows that. Anyone that watched the games this season knows that in this World Cup, and that's going to be an area that they expose, and Diani is a fantastic forward, and those two one-on-one, there's only one winner in that battle.
Yeah, I think Dunn positionally is going to have to be on point here because she has the speed to make up for mistakes, and we've seen that a lot in this tournament where there's a mistake, but she's able to recover and close it down. You're not doing that against a player like Diani. You're not going to be able to pull that off. Another question about the United States. It feels like there's a ton of questions about the U.S. coming into this game. Alex Morgan up top. She's been banged up. She took, honestly, a beating against Spain. Do you start her in this match?
I'm not sure you do, but do I think Ellis is going to start her? Yes, I do. So I'm not sure it's the right decision, but I think she'll start. And it all depends on which Alex Morgan shows up. And that's the thing. If it's the Alex Morgan of Thailand, and again, we're talking about Thailand, is it that impressive? Probably not. But if it's the Alex Morgan of Thailand, then the US is set. However, if it's the Alex Morgan of the last 16, then you have to be a little bit concerned because she was not in the game against Spain at all, and they need her to play well. And if she's not going to play well, that's where someone like Lloyd is probably the better option.
And that's the way I would go. I think Morgan is banged up, and I think she's maybe even a little gun-shy about contact. Spain definitely had a plan in mind with the tactical fouling of Alex Morgan, but I thought as the game went on, Morgan was looking for the contact, waiting for the contact, a little more worried about the contact than the game. I think it's in her head. I would start Carly Lloyd. I mean, Carly Lloyd, at this point in her career, could she start every match in this tournament and be effective? No. But in a game like this, you know how ruthless she is. I think she gives the U.S. attack a completely different dimension.
I agree. And potentially it's a nice surprise because France are probably going to be preparing to play against Alex Morgan because, you know, most people don't expect Ellis to drop her, and you put in Carly Lloyd and she offers something a bit different, and she's very clinical in front of goal. She's great in the air. She's shown that. And that's where the U.S. is going to have some chances.
Yeah, that feels like the changeup that Jill Ellis can throw at France and win that battle of the lineup sheets. I really feel like that would be. It's a shocking move. It's not a crazy move. It's not it's not too risky. It's a move that makes some sense at this stage. So, what about France? What are you looking for out of France if they're going to win this match?
They need to be smart at the back. They need to go hard, not sit back, but they also need to not take too many risks. If they go a goal down, they have to respond appropriately. It's one of those where you have to keep it tight. If you go one down, don't panic. We've seen that they can score late goals. We've seen that they've got quality. And I think that's how you beat the US, and you get in their faces and you maybe look how Spain approached it, because Spain had the best tactics of the tournament. I think Henry needs a huge game. I think Renard needs a huge game. The goalkeeper needs to have a huge game. And if you get those assets right, the rest of the team follows around.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the goalkeeper before we wrap up, because there's been some back and forth about Buhati and where she stands. I thought she had a good match against Brazil.
Yeah, I think so too. She's been a little bit iffy, but she's coming off a good game, and that's important. For goalkeepers, it's all mental, and it can be very hard after you've had a disappointing performance to then go and refocus. Fortunately, I think some of her little shaky moments came earlier on in the tournament. She's been able to brush those off her shoulders, and she had a good warm-up against Brazil. Brazil had a lot going forward. She made some good saves, and I think she's going to need to have a big performance because the US aren't afraid of shooting. But if France can mirror Spain and prevent them getting shots. I mean, they only had 2 shots on target against Spain, and those were both from penalty kicks. If they can force US to only shoot from outside the box, they're going to be just fine. And it's all about not giving up stupid fouls, keeping your hands behind your back, and, you know, hoping VAR doesn't step in too much.
Oh, we didn't see VAR today. I have a feeling that will not be the case tomorrow. I think this is going to be the narrowest of narrow margins in U.S. and France. Phil Neville in England will be sitting at a nice hotel watching this match, thinking about it. If you are Phil Neville, who would you rather see in a semifinal? We know how you want to see them because you want them to beat each other up. But who would you rather see after they beat each other up?
Oh, that's a really tough one because both teams have quality. I think I'd rather see the US. I think they peaked early, and I think England knows how to cut off those wing play. And if you can silence Rapinoe, if you can silence anyone on the wings for the United States, you silence them. And our defensive line, we're a very physical side, and the US doesn't like being rattled. So I'm gonna go with the US. Plus, it'll be pretty fun being a Brit in America, supporting England against everyone else.
Oh, man. I do think the U.S. gets through France tomorrow. I think the U.S. is just in a little bit better position. France has been really, both since the opening game, have struggled. I think the U.S., even though the Spain game, they didn't dominate, I think Spain, in a lot of different ways, tested them more than Brazil tested France. And it sounds funny because it didn't go to extra time and all that. I think Spain has made the U.S. think, and they're going to benefit from that kind of match.
Yeah, I think Spain was their wake-up call.
Yes.
I think they're very glad the wake-up call happened against Spain because it was against France. They wouldn't have been able to hold it out. I think you're right. When you looked at the stat sheets as a US player, you need to do better. You can't rely on 2 penalty kicks because it's very rare that happens in a game. I think France have really struggled, and the US is probably going to just about overpower them. But like I say, I'm hopeful, and I don't think it's unrealistic that this game could go to penalties or at least the whole 120 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think it's going to be a battle. I think it'll be very physical. I think you'll see goals from set pieces. And I think the U.S. will find more in the run of play and get through. And for the United States, I mean, you can't think ahead about these kinds of things, but you want to get out early, and you want to make this crowd change a little bit, because I do think it'll be pretty 50-50, but you want to get your fans going, and you want to silence the opposition and grow into the game. And the United States has that ability. I'm really on board with Carly Lloyd starting. I really think that's the way to go here, but we'll see what Jill Ellis does.
Do you think Ellis will?
I don't know. I think if there is any concern about the injury side of it from Morgan, that would give her the out. That would give her the excuse to do it. And I think it's needed. I really do.
I agree. But sometimes it just gets too comfortable with a player like Morgan. When she's your star, you put yourself in a position. I'm pretty sure Morgan doesn't want to be dropped either.
No, for sure. And we all know Carly Lloyd wants to play as well, so it's a complicated situation for Jill Ellis. I don't think it's going to be a distraction to the team, but it's a difficult decision. And I think the team is going to be better if they start Lloyd in this match. I think she's fresh, and I think she can give France some different challenges. We'll see. It's going to be just a ton to talk about afterwards. There's going to be so many different elements of it. I think everybody will be talking about it in the soccer world. I've talked to a lot of people today about it, and everyone is really, really excited about it. It's captured the attention of the world. It's captured the attention of the United States for sure, and it's captured the attention of kind of our soccer bubble. So we'll have plenty to talk about afterwards tomorrow. We'll try to get a podcast out for you fairly soon after the final whistle, because I have a feeling there's going to be at least 3-4 major talking points out of this.
Absolutely. And the biggest talking point, Jason, the biggest talking point is, what shirt is Kelly Francis wearing tomorrow?
Uh-oh.
I believe her words, if anyone watches Queens of the South, Kelly's exact words on our last podcast were, if France and the US meet, the USA are screwed.
Oof.
So let's see, Kelly. Let's see how your words are, and I want to know whether she's a Frenchie for the day or an American.
Hey, I was there before the tournament. I thought France would beat the U.S. in this game coming into the tournament, but after we've seen both teams play in the group stage, and we picked the bracket that was established at the end of the group stage, I think the U.S. is in a better position. Not by a lot, but I think they've been better in this tournament than France, and I do think they have enough to get past the host here.
We will see tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it.
We will. It's going to be narrow. We'll have to see how this goes. The smallest of things could decide it. That's where you're at in the quarterfinals of the Women's World Cup. we'll get you caught up on that, and we'll look ahead to the 2 matches in the quarterfinals on Saturday. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Give us your thoughts on Twitter at SoccerDownHere, at JessicaATLUTD. Go ahead and yell at the Kelly Francis as well, and you can yell at me at Longshoe. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to y'all tomorrow.